I call myself the Flavor Flav to her Chuck D. I'm like her biggest hype man, but she's an incredible human. Her name is Amanda Nguyen. And usually I just speak very eloquently from the heart, but I'm gonna read stuff because I always forget stuff. She is president and founder of RISE. It's a millennial-driven nonprofit working to implement a sexual assault survivors' Bill of Rights federally and in all 50 states, which is incredible. She most recently served as Deputy White House Liaison under President Obama at the US State Department. And her public career service began at NASA. I kid you not. Her first dream was to be an astronaut. I believe she still is going to be an astronaut. But in the midst of that, I'm gonna bring her out. She's an incredible human. Please give her a huge round of applause, Amanda Nguyen.
I'm the founder of RISE, and I'm 24 years old. RISE is a civil rights nonprofit. I started it because I needed civil rights. I went to Harvard. When I was in my last semester of college, I was raped. I remember being so alone when it happened. People tell you to go to the police, go to the hospital, go get help. But what I met with was an inherently broken criminal justice system. In Massachusetts, untested rape kits are destroyed at 6 months, even if you have 15 years to press charges. Every 6 months, I have to fight in order to save my kit from being destroyed. In some states, survivors are expected to pay for their rape kits, and it can cost up to $2,000. And if they don't pay it, they have creditors calling their homes. This is not only my story. There are 25 million rape survivors in the United States. That's nearly the population of Texas. There are so many public cases of the system that is supposed to help you failing survivors. That's when I realized I could accept the injustice or rewrite the law. So I rewrote it. Half of the battle is just showing up. And we showed up to the United States Congress. And then we did something that's nearly impossible, which is pass it unanimously on a recorded vote in both chambers of Congress. This is actually the most polarized Congress in history. Everyone voted for this. To see Speaker Paul Ryan and Senator Elizabeth Warren both vote for this on the record. It's just incredible that history is on our side. The justice system has failed me, but I deeply believe in the change that our legislative process can bring. I had to pen my own civil rights into existence, and I hope that other people can see that they can do that too. Wow. First of all, I want to say thank you. Thank you for listening to my story. There are some really special people that are here today, and no one gets to where they are by themselves. And so they are the RISE DC team. And can you raise your hands? Everybody, please give them a round. These are the folks that work day in and day out to make sure that we have civil rights and that our country lives up to the creed, equality under the law. Well, I want to also start off on a very personal note. I still, remember the morning I left the hospital after I was raped, and I have never understood the full definition of the word lonely until that moment. And the fact that you guys are all here right now, that you're listening, and that you're here because you want to make a difference, not only for your own future, but for the future of your generation, that means so much to me. And I want to say to any survivor who is listening now, you are not alone. I know what it feels like to be alone, and I promise you, I believe you, we believe you, and we can all make our future a better place.
usually they bring someone a little older to these events, a little wiser, and I'm not that much older than you. Like, honestly, I could tell you maybe what it was like to be alive in 1991 when I was alive and you were not. So instead of trying to dole out wisdom, what I'm going to do today is try to speak to you as a member of our generation, where I think we are and where I think we're going. And I want to start off with saying that I think our generation is one of the most hopeful, one of the most kind and compassionate and visionary generations out there. And there are all these articles all the time about, hey, millennials are responsible for XYZ destruction. I think there's millennials are responsible for why, we complain so much or all these things, but what I see is that millennials are actually going to save this planet. Millennials are going to save this democracy. Again, that's because y'all are here right now. And let me tell you something that millennials also did. We got these two people to work together. In our office, we call it the Rise Justice Lab because we call ourselves justice engineers. It's my way of merging my worlds together. We actually have something that I never thought I would have, which is a picture of C-SPAN. That's the picture. It's kind of ugly, but it shows the entire United States Congress standing there on the floor, voting, 399-0. And this has only been done before us 20 times in modern US history. The passage of the RISE Bill, the Sexual Assault Survivor Bill of Rights, became the 21st bill in modern US history to pass unanimously. That means, thank you. That means that day, we literally made Congress work. Like, if we didn't have a vote, they would have not shown up. And I'm slightly proud of that. I also have something else in our office. It's GovTrack. I think it's congress.gov. I have it because it says it became law. Again, super nerdy, but something that is really endearing. And the next photo I want to show you are some really special people. So that's a photo of a lot of our team standing around the actual law. This is at the Smithsonian's National Archives. And my favorite museum here used to be, okay, first of all, it's the museum. Thank you, museum. And then second, it's the Air and Space, but now it's the archives because I have something there. It's those pieces of paper. But those pieces of paper brought my own civil rights into existence and brought 25 million other civil rights into existence. And these people here are ordinary citizens. They're students, they're young professionals, they're coders, they're comedians, they're nurses. And what we did was we recognized that the most powerful tool we all have is our voices. So that's what we did. We spoke up and we got this passed. The statistic for a unanimous passage is 0.016%. Which is why I call us a unicorn. It passed 399-0 and 89-0. And we did this in 7 months. Usually these types of bills take 10 to 15 years in Congress. But we did it in 7 months. And even better yet, I have a theory of change. And that theory is that hope is contagious. And if you are able to articulate an issue that demands attention clearly, and at the same time pair that up with a very concrete call to action, a solution, a first step one, then people are going to take it and they're going to run with it. And that's exactly what happened. So after the federal law became law, we heard from over 1 million people reaching out, signing petitions, writing in, saying, I need these rights in my own state and in my own country. And since October 2016, we have passed unanimously 9 laws. 9, that's a law a month, and I'm so proud of the team for doing that. If there is, thank you. if there is any hope that our country is still the amazing place that it is with these people, because I have witnessed ordinary citizens being able to make that change, and I know it is so possible. And that I'm also a pathological optimist, but that's a story for another day. So this is the waiting room. It's a picture of chairs. But it's there because the reason why I started Rise is because I remember walking into my local area rape crisis center and the seats were filled. And I realized to myself that my story is not mine alone. There are 25 million rape survivors in the United States, according to the CDC in 2010, which is equivalent to the entire population of Texas. That's a lot. And quite simply, justice should not depend on geography. Now, I talked about my theory of change. And as you can see, this is the New York Times AP article on our bill passing. And then after that, how people in Minnesota were inspired to, yeah, go Minnesota, to take this up. I'm going to go through something very briefly. This is the organizing model, and I don't think we have time to go through it completely today, but my background is in national security. And so if you guys are familiar with Graham Allison's rational model theory about how to deal with irrational actors, that's the same method that I apply to our organizing. It's a 4-layer chessboard, and each layer has a skill set that you need to think about. And when you are organizing, each move that you make on any of these layers affects the rest of the game. So very quickly, the first layer is mission and facts. Know your facts, know exactly what you're fighting for, and know what exactly your ask is. This chart is a little outdated, but it shows the state of the rights across the United States for sexual assault survivors. Everywhere there's a dot, that means civil right is codified. Everywhere there isn't a dot, that means that civil right is being denied. And our goal simply is to fill those dots. All right, the second layer is storytelling. So Funny or Die, our favorite. We are so fortunate to be able to work with Funny or Die because our issue needs to get to a lot of people, including people who may not know about it or may not be necessarily gravitated to the issue. So how did we do that? We worked with celebrities, and we worked with Funny or Die to create these PSAs. There were satirical texts on how absurd these laws were, and it worked. This is our latest PSA, and unfortunately, we don't have time to go through it, but the issue in itself should speak for itself. But we also recognize the power of people in social media and technology and the platforms that they have. And so that's why we worked with celebrities, and we worked with Tatiana Maslany and held an event, a kickoff party for states' rights in legislation on the local level. I mean, this is not sexy stuff. But because we worked with these celebrities and made it to be fun and engaging, when we threw the party, this was the line 1 hour before it opened. And people were so engaged. And then I also look at the Washington Post article. It has Tatiana's face on it. It's like, yeah, they're doing civil rights, but Tatiana Maslany. It's sad, but it's just a recognition of how people are gravitated to issues now, and the importance of utilizing influencers and platforms to get your cause out there. These are some of the faces of our risers, and unfortunately, we don't have time to go through them today. But I want to get to the last two pieces, which is coalition building. Now, this is really important. Being able to work across the aisle is the reason why we were successful. And what that means is we had to work with people we don't 100% agree with. How did we do that? I believe that you cannot convince someone to break their own faith within a few conversations. And what that means is, in order to convince somebody, you have to convince them based on their own moral standards and their own moral frameworks. But it also means treating them with respect, which is the last layer, which is remembering that when you're talking to somebody, yes, they may be, a senator that you don't agree with, but at the end of the day, they're also human. So how do you connect in an authentic way and share your vision? Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to move the ball forward. The last thing I want to leave y'all with is the power of showing up. So when the Massachusetts bill was going through, it actually was going to die, and the speaker was not going to bring it up. And I remember my policy advisor saying, don't go, it's not going to happen. And it was my teammates that said, just show up, just go to Massachusetts, just stand there, and let all of the representatives see your face as they walk out of the floor, just be there. And I was the last person on the plane. I was flying to Massachusetts to get on that plane. And the next morning, our lead sponsors were like, hey, good job for being here, but like, this is not gonna happen. But for 14 straight hours, we went and we just literally walked into rooms and we said, hey, my name is Amanda, I'm a survivor. My name is Elizabeth, I'm an ally. My name is Chris, I'm a lawyer. We went and we explained about why we care about this bill. And at the end of those 14 hours, the speaker brought it up and it passed unanimously, and that's how I have civil rights in Massachusetts today. So that theory of change I was talking about, it's spread across the world. And so we're working in 4 countries now. This is a photo of a rape kit storage facility. And it's hard to look at. Each one of those boxes contains 20 rape kits. It just really reminds me how real this is, and that there are lives that whenever you're working on an issue, you may never get to meet the people that you affect. These are boxes, they're not people, but the first time that I talked to politicians, it was 6 hours, 7 hours of me just straight telling my story. And it was horrible because there were politicians who literally were like, I don't care, I have a re-election to run. And I went home and I cried. And I remember praying, I was like, I just need someone to tell me they love me. And as a pathological optimist that I am, the next day I got up and I did the exact same thing for the United States Senate. And in my ride to the Senate, I was in a car, in an Uber, and the driver was this huge stoic man, stranger, never met him, kind of intimidating. And he, at the end of the ride, he saw I was going to the Senate, so he asked me why I was going, and I told him. And this man, complete stranger I had never met before, started crying. Tears just welled up, and he said to me, my daughter is a rape survivor. And when he stopped the car, he said, the system is so broken. Can I shake your hand? Thank you so much for fighting for my daughter. Has anyone told you that they love you today? I love you. And I'll never forget that dad. Sometimes this work is really hard. This is a photo of one of those work days. And my team had printed out letters from survivors and surprised me when I walked in, and there were letters that covered all 4 walls with their stories. And I just want to end by saying, I have experienced the failings of our justice system, but I know the change that ordinary people can bring. I've lived it after all. And here's what I learned. No one can make us invisible when we demand to be seen. And that this is all our collective story. It's a story of progress, and it's a narrative of change. And that change starts with y'all being here today and caring about this. So thank you very much.
I'm all kinds of fired up. I just want to give you a hug. I love you.
I love you too.
I don't know why they had the comedy guy ask questions. I guess maybe because they knew everyone's going to be weeping and they thought I'd come out
the balance, yin and yang.
Make it sort of not weepy as much anymore. So I have this cool iPad for those folks watching from home, and I am just going to ask the questions that are the highest voted.
Okay.
So literally, my job could be automated. There could be a robot up here doing this, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So the first question, Amanda, is what were the methods of storytelling or communication that captured the attention of the lawmakers?
That's a great question. So the first and most important thing is just being authentic, right? Just like telling your story. I think that it's whatever your story can be. You don't have to be a survivor. You can be an ally, like I mentioned earlier. Those are powerful stories. Why should I care? The second most important thing is when you tell your story, be able to immediately afterwards tell folks what they can do. Like, what's the call to action, right? Because like you can get people fired up and energized, but then the next question people would be like, okay, so I get that there's a problem. What do I do? What can I do? What can I do to help? And if you give them really bite-sizable or even very clear call to actions, I think those are the two main points to do a story.
That's great. And then, of course, always follow it up with a Funny or Die video.
Yes, that's right. Really critical.
Really the key component of incredible advocacy. The second question is, as a young female millennial of color who has organized to change national policy, what obstacles did you overcome and how? That's a great question.
Yeah, it is.
By the way, did you say how old you are? People forget. Amanda did all this at the age of 24. So like I've lived in Washington for like a decade and I've worked at the White House and I've done a lot of work for like massive organizations that have like millions of members and millions of dollars. And Amanda did all this at the age of 24. And
it means you can do. I expect all of you to go do that.
And all of your staff are even younger.
Yeah, that's right. They're the MVPs.
They're the MVPs. But just a reminder to all of you, like, this is what gets me inspired. It's not the tweeting of Trump nonsense. It's young, amazing people like Amanda and like you guys. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna shut up.
No. I just wish that people, especially young people, understood their power, right? I think a lot of institutional things may make us forget because it can be terrifying about how brilliant you are. But especially women of color. Let me tell you, every single time I speak, there's always somebody who comes up and says, it means so much to me to see an activist that is Asian or a woman of color. And I cannot tell you how still enraging it is to be the only woman of color. It's not like only Asian, not only woman of color, only person of color in decision-making rooms. And that has got to change. And for folks who do this issue or who, if you care about something, like your presence just in doing it is an act of progress in itself. So keep on speaking up.
Preach. How do you respond? This is a tough one. How do you respond to individuals who blame rape victims for what happened to them?
Yeah. Well, I had a private thought in my head, and I'm gonna filter that.
That's the third Funny or Die video we did.
Just I need like an anti-Luther.
Yes.
If you guys are fans of Key and Peele, the anger translator, I need like a moderator, like an anti-anger translator. Look, we have been socialized for centuries to blame survivors, and to them, I just say, please meet somebody and learn.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna smile.
You sounded like Barack right there.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Very calm. The next question, can we talk about some of the winning intricacies of the bill? Not sure if that was the right word, but I like it. Maybe they mean winning strategies?
Strategies?
Perhaps.
Oh, all right, cool.
Or I don't know if or maybe some of the policy too, but maybe a little bit of both.
All right, strategy-wise, being able to talk across the aisle. I think one of the greatest issues right now that our country faces is the ability to work across the aisle. Like, a healthy democracy depends on the ability of its citizens to hash things out.
Preach.
And we may not care, and we may not want to listen to their side, but it's so, so, so important. And I cannot emphasize how if you come up to somebody who doesn't agree with you, but you respectfully engage in a dialogue with them, that's gonna make all the difference. So that's number one. And as part of the policies, I know we're running out of time, so go to risenow.us.
Yeah.
Sign up if you want to be a part of this. We are still passing these laws on the state level, and we need young people like you to be able to do this. Again, if you want to write a law, we're doing it a law month. So, so you can write a civil rights law too, or help us pass it. But yeah, get involved, speak up, and check us out.
And make sure to take selfies, which we're going to do really quick. Come here, Amanda.
Oh my God.
I'm a cheese ball. Let's do it. Can you guys put your hands up?
Woo!
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
y'all.
Please thank Amanda.